Let's talk about the two bubble blue bloods. I know Tyler's been waiting for this all night. You know, Alabama, all right, like he's okay with Alabama, but he wants to talk about Kentucky and Carolina here. It worked out well that he was on the show tonight, but we'll start with Kentucky, Tyler, which is kind of your nemesis these days, the Cat fans, and I know where you stand with that because I've been there before. Kentucky loses at Georgia today, 75-68 in a kind of a must-win game. I mean, they're right on the bubble, just like Carolina. We had them as an 11 seed in our bracketology, and they lose to this Bulldogs team that has lost 6 of its last 7, 129 in the net. They were 4-7 in SEC play coming into the day, and Kentucky, I know they're down a couple dudes. They're down 2 guards in Severe Wheeler and who else for that? Frederick today. So they're down 2 guards. But honestly, you still got to beat Georgia in Athens here, don't you?
No question. Listen, Kentucky cannot afford to lose to many teams, and especially to a struggling team like Georgia. And there's no excuse. I know they were down Frederick and Wheeler, but their defense has been bad as well. And I've come on here and I've talked about, I think they have lack of shooting. Big Blue Nation came at me and they threw the analytics at me. I still don't think they can shoot. And that's just from the eye test. That comes from years of watching basketball and understanding why they pack the paint. They're returning the best player in college basketball, apparently, in Tshiebwe. And it's no offense to Oscar because I think he's a really good player. I'm bad at pronouncing names. But this
Tshiebwe. There's no T. Just Tshiebwe.
Tshiebwe. All right.
No Tshiebwe. Just Tshiebwe.
Tshiebwe.
There you go.
All right. We'll work with that one, but
we got you with Zach Edey. Hey, we got Zach Edey.
I fixed that for me. Yeah,
that
one worked out. But no, I think this one falls on Cal, and you got to have your team prepared to play at Georgia, and especially for a team trying to make a case for a tournament. It's unacceptable to lose a game like this when you're really fighting for to get into the tournament, and it's kind of crazy to think about. That Kentucky, I don't know, somebody could go a whole 4 years in college in Kentucky, not win a tournament game, not see them win.
See how many days?
Yeah. Freshman
1,415 days. And if they don't think about it, if they don't get in the tournament this year, you're going to talk more than 1,800 days for Big Blue Nation to celebrate one NCAA tournament win. That's insane.
Crazy. Yeah. I don't know where to go. I don't know really. I mean, I've pointed out their flaws, but to me, I would say a lot of this falls right on Cal.
Sweeney.
I think.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think at the end of the day, when you have older guys too, like Reeves and Tshiebwe and Toppin, those guys have been around college basketball. You're down shooters, you're down guards. Okay, we got to bring it on defense. We got to lunch pail this thing to a victory. And they just didn't come out with a sense of urgency, right? And Cal comes in post-game and says, I don't think our guys had a will to win. And look, I think part of that's maybe Cal struggling to get through to these guys, but also as players, it shouldn't take that. You shouldn't need to be reminded, you're at Kentucky, it's February, it's the SEC. Regardless of whether you're on the bubble, you should be ready to go. The fact you're on the bubble only adds to that. And so I just think at some point, these guys need to understand that the way they're going to win this year is by defending a whole lot better than they have. They are a flawed offensive team. They just don't have a lot of shot making. I wanted to see more assertiveness from Cason Wallace today. He just, he took only 8 shots. He kind of phased in and out of the game. Yeah. He's got to be more aggressive. But this is not a team that I think is going to beat people by scoring 80 points a night. That's just not how they're built. They need to be tougher than you, more physical than you, dominate the glass against you. And they let Georgia take the fight to them today. And that was really disappointing. That was a really disappointing effort for Kentucky.
I'm worried now because I thought they'd win this game. I really did. I thought they'd win this one. And I was thinking, all right, they win this one. They'll get, Tennessee at home. They already got them on the road. And then they'll be in. They'll be in the tournament. And, even if they're an 11 seed, 10 seed, whatever it is, at least if they're in, they could win a game or two in the NCAA tournament. Now I look at it completely different because they're out now. They have to beat Tennessee. They have to go on a little bit of a run here. And again, if you've got a banged up C.J. Frederick and Severe Wheeler hasn't played, if those guys couldn't play today in a must-win game, Wheeler played at Georgia. That's where he played before. To me, if he was able to get out there, either one of those guys, this is kind of your season. So now I'm concerned that maybe they can't get there. And if they don't get to the tournament, you've got 2 years ago, you were terrible. Last year, you lose to St. Peter's. This year, you don't get to the tournament. I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago saying, you know what? I think it's time. I just think it's time for both sides because, as Cal said years ago, there's kind of a limit on an expiration date almost on coaching in Lexington. It wears you out. I feel like it's time for both parties to move on. I don't know if they can come to some agreement mutually because there's $40 million that Kentucky might have to pay him. Well, they're not because there's an offset. So somebody's going to hire him. Kentucky's not going to be on the hook for $40 million. They might be on the hook for 20. They might. But ultimately, I just think both sides could agree that, hey, you know what? This thing has run its course. Let's move on. All right. The big question I'm going to hit both of you with, and Tyler, I'm not sure you have an answer for this one. Sweeney, I hope you do. If you make a move, well, first of all, do you think I'm right or do you think I'm nuts here for thinking that it's time for Cal?
I don't think you're nuts. I think he could fix this, right? I think there's no doubt he could get this right next year. I think there are very few guys who are more cut out for this job than
Sweeney,
Cal is.
with the number one recruiting class. It's all young dudes. They're not going to win this thing with a bunch of freshmen.
And it's a terrible 2023 recruiting class.
That too.
100%. I think you're right that it's run its course, but I do think there are very few, and you've tweeted about this with Chris Holtman at Ohio State, like, be careful what you wish for, yes, right? Because I know it's a great program. I know they're everything, but like
you could get Bully Clyde Gillespie.
Exactly.
Right.
And look, Kentucky's dysfunctional, top down, athletic department down. There's been criticism of the AD, his relationship with Cal. Like, I just think there's a lot here beyond that goes beyond Cal. So I don't think it's just him. I think obviously you'd have to make a dynamite hire. And I'll say this: if you're going to make a move, you better be ready with a name that is a guarantee to win.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I agree with that. And I'm not sure who that is. Right. Scott Drew comes to mind for me. But if you hire Scott Drew, and I think he's a hell of a coach and Mr. Positivity, but man, if he doesn't win there, they could eat him up for dinner. So I would worry about that, Tyler.
To me, it kind of comes with the territory. Listen, if you don't win at Kentucky, you're going to take criticism. I don't care who it is. To me, I don't really have a guy. I don't think there's an up-and-coming guy that comes to mind. There's an old-school coach that's done pretty well at Kentucky, Rick Pitino. Maybe they come in for a year or two, fix the issues and, see what happens.
Maybe Cal and Rick could work together and do a kumbaya thing because Cal can recruit and Rick can really coach. Imagine those two co-coaches, Cal and Pitino, who hated each other forever, come together and finish their careers winning titles.
The documentary about that would be outstanding. I'm just going to put it
It really would. It would be unbelievable. All right, let's get to Carolina now. Let's get to Carolina so we can have Tyler smiling a little bit because so far he's been smiling just at the struggles of the Kentucky Wildcats.